Dare mode is a crazy challenge. The goal is to reach room 46 just like the main game, but there are commands that you have to follow. In fact, you can't even open room 46 unless you have all 4 of your dares. You start the game with 1 and then a new dare gets added each day, which sounds kind of strange at first, like why not all 4 at once? Well, this is Blueprints' way of being kind. You can still get all the upgrades from the main game, so your first 3 days should be spent unlocking things before they potentially get banned. For example, let's look at this dare. Press no more than 1 switch or button in each utility closet. That's pretty bad. But if you already have a gem mined, then this dare becomes a joke. The other way to play dare mode is to instantly call it a day until you reach your 4th dare. That way there's no surprises and there's no time lost. For example, you won't waste any time unlocking things just to get rocked by a surprise 4th dare that's way too difficult and threatens your entire run. Which tactics you employ are ultimately up to you. I mean, hey, it's not like you can win until you get your 4th day dare, right? Well, imagine my surprise in the laboratory when I came across this experiment. What? What is this? What is this? What is this dare? I believe the ability to add more dares exists only to allow for day 1 dare wins. I'm not gonna repeat that. Just know that all you poor folks who are struggling for the day 1 trophy could have it so much worse. I don't know if you can go beyond 4 dares with this experiment because I'm a lily liver chicken, but I imagine you can. So masochists, please gather behind dare mode. It's worth noting that even if you break a dare, you'll only lose that day's progress, though if you lose a day 1, you'll have to reload a brand new save with a brand new first dare. And not every command is created equal. Some are pretty easy, like never eat fruit. I mean, I do that in real life. Others seem easy, but are actually secretly tricky. Make exactly 1 purchase or trade in each shop you draft means that your aquarium is an instant death. Actually, aquarium will just about always ruin you in dare mode. Funny how it goes from such an incredible room in the main game to just awful in challenge runs and especially curse mode. But some dares, my friends, are just borderline impossible. Never enter a room more than 3 times. Finish each day with 0 coins, 0 keys, and 0 gems. I've heard that one might be glitched, but I'm gonna save you some trouble. Just reset. There's no shame in getting new dares. This is a challenge mode, not a kill yourself mode, which again sounds more like curse mode, which I'm begrudgingly doing as my next challenge. So my own dare mode took about 10 hours, but before I talk about that, let's just rank all of the dares in the order in which I think they're most reasonable. Again, some of them are way harder than others. I tend to rank favorably ones that you know you can do. Like, for example, opening up all the chests is annoying, but every time you see a chest, you know, okay, I can do this. Where the ones that require a lavatory, as funny as waiting in there for 30 seconds is, that requires you to have a lavatory, which is not a guarantee and can make it really, really stressful if you made a lot of progress, but you have not actually done that yet. I'm gonna pin this list as well, so don't feel like you have to pause it. One final funny dare that we have to talk about, which I think is probably emblematic of dare mode more than anything else, is leaving the Mount Holly blueprint on the entrance hall table. I've seen so many streamers just instantly lose because they pick up the blueprint without reading their first dare. The funny thing about this is that yes, it is pretty hard and I rank it hard because I am directionally challenged, but if you are somebody who rises to the occasion, who is down to take your own notes as you're playing through the game, create your own physical blueprint just like Herbert S. Sinclair would have wanted, not only do you have an easy dare, quote unquote, but you also gain this increased appreciation for the environment of blueprints, kind of like playing through a game without any minimap UI stuff. I think that there's actually something really cool about that, though personally, I'm a little baby boy and I need to have my map at all times. So my own personal dares were this. Dare number 1, always have at least 20 steps. Dare number 2, never touch the center door in the entrance hall. Dare number 3, always draft a red room when one is drawn. Dare number 4, always pick the first floor plan when drafting in the entrance hall. This was my second roll of dares, by the way, because there was no way I was going to beat the game with only 2 items in my inventory and not being able to touch a room more than 3 times. The biggest downside of these dares is that your days are very short. You have way less steps than normal, and the inability to draft from the center in the entrance hall, let alone picking good options from the wings, means that your house is often screwed from the very first choices. Honestly, this dare mode gave me probably the most amount of empathy for the brand new players who are not very good at blueprints, because I would imagine that my houses are not so different than the houses that they are building. So because my days were short, shrine blessings got a lot worse. I never really had a lot of money to make them last longer than 3 days either. And again, many of my days ended very, very quickly, so I didn't get to squeeze a lot of value out of it. In fact, there was one shrine blessing I was really excited about. It's the berry one, which is normally not so powerful. It's one where you essentially pick a random 4th room instead of the 3 that you're drawn. I thought this would be a good combo with red rooms that I don't want to be picking, but unfortunately, you still lose if you pick a berry, so yeah, I think that blessing just sucks all around. That being said, I was still allowed to use ivory dice or reroll using the drawing room. For whatever reason, that was still valid with the red room challenge. Turns out rerolling's good. Who would have guessed it? The nice thing about my dares is that even though they can be kind of difficult in combination with each other, individually, they're not so bad. And so once you get in your head a certain type of ritual, like, okay, never touch the entrance hall center door and let's just immediately draft the first option from the west and east before we even start, well, that's already half the battle. So as long as your step count is healthy and you always pick red rooms and you never ever get misled by an aquarium, then yeah, you're in decent shape. However, there was one room in particular that was my death knell, and you can probably imagine it. It's not Furnace, although my word, Furnace is awful. It's a dead end that forces me to pick lavatory and everything awful that gets presented. Yikes. No, my friends, it is weight room. Now, weight room is on the rarer side, but the fear of a weight room showing up randomly at any point where I'm at 39 steps or below and just instantly ending my day made me often choose between how much progress I made in a day and how much do I want to just save and call it there. Does that make sense? Let's say I solved a laboratory experiment where I raised my allowance by 5. I'm way more likely to call it a day earlier than later, because if the weight room is still out in the open, that is going to ruin my day and it's going to make me extremely livid. You've got to take every bit of progress you can in a challenge mode and don't ever risk it way too much if you've already got yourself a decent payout. However, if your day is kind of weak, then it's perfectly fine to take riskier options because you have way less to lose. Let me bring up 2 examples, and of course, both of them are related to freaking red rooms, which I could not get enough of in this playthrough. The first one is dark room. It's a common room. Now think about this for a second. All 3 of the options are dark, right? If there was a red room you didn't see that you didn't pick, well, you instantly just lost right there. Dark room, way too scary to pick normally. I would often call it a day if I made a lot of progress before risking anything with it. Now you could make some educated guesses. Obviously, gem cost means that they're not going to be a red room unless it's aquarium. And of course, utility closet is already a decent option to be picking because of the security door shenanigans. It's not the easiest thing to get a lot of keys when your days have the most stunted houses ever. But all that to say, dark room is still a risky option. Way worse than that though was archives. Now thankfully archives is a lot more rare, but there's no utility closet shenanigans, right? You basically always have to pick the hidden option unless you are perfectly fine ending your day randomly knowing that there was actually secretly a lavatory that you didn't pick. Red rooms, man. Holy freaking cow. Also, conservatory, which is always a very, very strong room, was huge in this particular challenge run because I was able to make the aquarium rare very early on. In fact, my general strategy for the conservatory was to crank everything to common regardless of gem cost or what have you, except for some dead ends, just to make sure that there was even less of a chance of drawing red rooms. However, there was one giga brain decision that was made. This idea was courtesy of our good friend Shagraz, the head playtester for Blueprints, who is always doing tier lists with me, a good friend of mine. He had the amazing idea of changing the weight room to common. Why would I want to crank that to common, you might ask? Again, this is the killer room that I don't want to be seeing. Well, 3 reasons. 1, by the time I could make this decision, I had already powered hammered the brick wall, so that's a very free antechamber lever. 2, if I draw the weight room early, then I can build around that. For example, getting a nursery, getting more steps. It's good to know that the big bomb is out of the deck, so even if the rest of my day is kind of stunted, I know that there's no chance of just instantly having the rug pulled under me. But then 3, with the weight room being common, the shelter gets even better. Chapel, weight room, archives, those are my 3 shelters? That's insane. And now we've actually opened up the north and east. Yo. And let me tell you, the shelter was huge for me. I was drafting red rooms left and right, but being able to actually shelter the weight room and get that free lever was game breaking. And that absolutely led to my winning run at the end of the day. One of my favorite moments in this run happened fairly early on. I was getting real cheeky with laboratory experiments, thinking, okay, if I draft a red room, I'll lose 5 steps and then set my steps to 40. That's going to keep me at a good, healthy level throughout the day. And if I get a weight room, then that means I can just bounce back to 40 and continue my day as normal, right? Right? Yeah, no, just like the berry picking, I got screwed by the dares. Don't be messing around with dares, everybody. What? No, that's BS. Herbert S. Sinclair did not leave his estate to some little cheater rule breaker, okay? He wants to make sure that only people who can reach room 46 are worthy of his name. The other really funny thing happened when I did manage to get a boiler room activated, and I got thrilled at this point because I thought, holy cow, there's a really good chance I can actually link this up to a laboratory and get the Blackbridge Grotto. That is massive for a challenge run. Well, early on, I had red rooms that had 4 paths, so okay, maybe not the best situation, but at least all 4 of these pathways are going to be powered. Then I found a furnace, and holy cow, I was sweating such incredible bullets, wishing and wishing that please can I make this happen. It's so hard to get a pool into a boiler room, into everything to make this possible, and I finally did. Holy freaking cow. Again, you cannot underestimate just how powerful the Blackbridge Grotto was. Shelter, which was already the best outer room for me in this dare, became even better because now you could get a guaranteed laboratory experiment at the start of your runs. So clutch. But of course, you can't talk challenge runs without talking about the tomb. I mistakenly thought you needed a power hammer to bust into the tomb's area to pull back the minecart and get your room 46 run going. And I was pretty upset about this because even though I had a power hammer at one point, there was one day when I just ran too low on steps to be able to check it back in my coat check, so I did end up losing it. Was very upset about it. But thankfully, you don't actually need that. The tomb is incredibly clutch for every challenge run you'll ever do, especially day 1 in curse mode. And in fact, this ended up being the secret sauce that allowed me to get the win on my dare mode. But I'm going to let most of that speak for itself because my winning run was so freaking thrilling. It just reminds you what a 10 out of 10 masterpiece blueprints is. Sure, maybe you're slogging through a lot of things. It took me quite a few in-game days to actually pull this off because again, most of my dares are not difficult, but they do severely stunt your progress. Most of my days were extremely short. They did not often go beyond rank 4. In fact, it's kind of fun to scroll through them and show you what they look like. They're hard to make. Oh, I'm dead. I'm dead, y'all. Still, most days I was able to make some sort of progress, like stars in the sky or getting a decent laboratory experiment, increasing my allowance. So if my day wasn't ending extremely short, I was at least making some sort of meta progress. And of course, it all culminated into the best run of blueprints I've ever had, even for someone who knew most of the secrets going into it. So let me explain why this ended up being such a crazy run. This was the only day I had managed to enter the antechamber. Remember, my days often end short due to the combination of dares. So I had just enough steps to know that it was time to go all in. The goal, reach the foundation. I have a basement key. I already had the minecart prepped with an earlier tomb. So as long as I can reach the underground with a basement key, that is a win. Plan A, go through the Great Hall, except there's a problem. My gems and especially my keys were very limited. Thankfully, we could combine the shovel and the metal detector for maximum key chances. And we knew the kennel had a hole, so off to the doggos we went. Come here. Come here, good boy. Give Papa some luck. Let's go. Let's go digging. Oh. Okay, give Papa some luck for the next hole, please. I'm not gonna get mad at you, good boy. I'm not gonna get mad at you. That very same day, I had a drafting room where I added a dormitory to my deck. There is a very underutilized secret in blueprints where if you check the drafting room, you can see exactly what's behind the Great Hall's doors for that day. So by checking this and triple checking it, frankly, we could make sure that our one single key could open up the exact location that we needed. Just really hope that, oh my, you have got to be kidding me. Why? Why? Hold up, not all is dead, because we can get the storeroom and we can build from the passageway and hope we get really lucky with our triggers, right? Well, no, that wasn't great, but I guess the storeroom gave us an extra key and an extra gem, but now we have to build a really awkward path. Thankfully, maybe our detector shovel can still get us those keys, and yeah, sure enough, we did find 2 of them inside the Dovecote dirt. Dovecote. A key! 2 keys! But the real catch here was, even with these resources, I really needed to not see any red rooms along the way. I'll let it speak for itself. Oh my gosh, I have to pick lavatory. I hate that. Because that's like so hard. I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, that could be lavatory, but I don't think you can double red, right? I'm getting really, really nervous. Oh my gosh. At this point, I was laughing and defeated, and I was debating between whether I should coat check the basement key or if I should just coat check the detector shovel. But then it occurred to our stream. That power hammer that I had way earlier in this dare mode playthrough, I had busted open an entrance to the basement from the outside, and I have the basement key. My friends, the euphoria, the catharsis of finally pulling this off after all of these trials and tribulations, it was unreal. Blueprints is still a game of skill. Sure, this took me a long time to beat, but I stand firmly by that. Yes, there is luck involved with the game, but choosing what you are adapting to based on what you're given is huge, and this skill is put on full display in challenge modes, especially when you have to fight tooth and nail for even a scrap, a tiny little morsel of permanent progress. So yeah, that was my dare mode. I would say overall, I got pretty lucky with this set of 4 dares. They are annoying, but they're not necessarily game-breaking, provided that you know how to play around the risk, because you're not going to lose progress randomly as long as you're playing around the weight room, or if you're being very careful with archives and the dark room. If you're having trouble with dare mode, honestly, just restart. There are plenty of dares out there, many of which are not nearly as bad as you might expect. Feel free to join us for our curse mode runs. I'm always streaming on Twitch and YouTube, and you know I'm always making spoiler-free Blueprints content. This was obviously not spoiler-free, but whatever. As always, I'm Scoutmaster Demi. See you around the camp.